Hey there, Steve. So, looks like you're trying to make a pattern in an assembly. So you have a part that you want to make go through a pattern. So here we have a single part up here, and you have your sketch and your extrusion just for the block. And then I made a little work point and then a plane perpendicular to that work point to that line, so it's directly on it. And then I just made a sketch and then a boundary patch, just to make it a circle that has no thickness. So it's pretty much just a placeholder. Then did a rectangular pattern along this line using curve length and directional. So directional follows that line around. If you do identical, it'll flip it so it's all the same plane. So you can do directional and it'll follow along. And then you can do curve or distance, so you can specify the distance between them. So that way it'll only go so far. So that if we wanted to be 20, you'd have to increase that to 70. So just depends on kind of what you want it set up as, spacing, things like that. So once we get that set up as far as our pattern goes, then we have our little block part. So we go into our pattern. We insert our block and constrain it to the endpoint here. So we got a flush constraint to the face, to the bottom, and just the mid plane to that point. So that way that can't move, and this is a grounded part. So then once we get into here, you can do a pattern, and then you select your component, which is this part, and then your feature pattern select. Since we already have a pattern in the part, this is what you select. And then it'll go and stick to it. So you can see kind of where it's placing it based off of the first one. So you get the circle here and the block there, and then it goes through. So that way, if you actually come back to the base and we change this to, let's say, 70, just increases them, come back to the pattern here and update it, and it'll then follow. So what you're trying to do is make a part and a pattern in a different way where you have to follow along a pre-existing pattern. Um, you can do patterns in the assembly level for cuts because it's a feature that you can pattern, but you cannot do it for another part. So if you actually want to do the follow, you have to create another part that has that pattern that it can follow. So I hope that'll make a little bit of sense and get you going.